Hey guys, it's me Rebecca. So this will be the start of another weekly vlog, and so for today after some cleaning and some laundry and whatnot, I've not been feeling super well today just cause I don't think you can see it on in frame, but I have this like rash. I have rashes on both my arms, and I'm not sure if it's like poison ivy or something else, or just a bad rash, but it's like, I don't know, I've been waking up in the middle of the night because it's been so scratchy, and it's this, I don't know, I'm just gonna best, but yeah, and it seems like it would be another month of me tackling another classic. Like, I swear since March I've been reading a classic a month, which isn't a bad thing, but this month's classic is, I'm under no obligation to read this. My brain was just like, you're reading this, I don't care what you want, which, but you're reading this, and I'm currently on part 3, page 238 of this edition, and so far I am liking it quite a bit. I'm definitely enjoying seeing the main character Wasko-Nifikov in kind of like the different turns his brain will take. Like, 1 second he's gloomy, he's almost depressed, he's like so out of it due to some bad illness he's currently dealing with, and other times he's like complete opposite. Like, it's the whole range of feelings he's going through, and seeing like how he once go to the police and confess like what he did versus like him deciding, oh, I'm just gonna move on. Like, seeing that in the way, like the way he's grappling with what he did is really interesting to me. Like, I just like following the character in their mental yeah. But with the start of this novel, we do meet him, and we learn quite quickly that he's like a university dropout who seems like he's quite down on his like he's went in quite a small womb from this landlady, and I'm saying womb in quotation marks because it's probably, from the way it's described, probably no bigger than like a closet, a walk-in closet from what I gathered. And he cannot make rent. Like, it seems like he only has this room because of a previous agreement with this landlady where he was gonna marry her daughter, but then the daughter died due to her being sick. And yeah, we learn that he is pawning off things to this person, and we see how really he's just going through life in St. Petersburg. He meets different people who are also down on their luck and who have turned to drink for comfort and to escape their problems. And he gets this letter from his mother informing him that his sister, who's like a governess, and was slandered by a former employer for trying to get with the husband, when really it was them for trying to get with the woman's husband, when really it was the husband who was making advances towards her. And like, this woman slandered her name all throughout the town, ruining her reputation, ruining everything for her, until her husband decided he wanted to be decent enough and come forward and say like she's innocent. And the sister's now engaged, and it is not an engagement out of love, but more so for convenience. And the fiance is on his way to St. Petersburg, and where Raskolnikov lives in. They're hoping that he'll become the fiance's colleague, and because the fiance has to do with some legal stuff, it's not really properly explained, but the sister and the mother are on the way. And when Raskolnikov gets this, he is not happy. He thinks his family are naive for agreeing to this, that they won't make their lives better. And we also learn that he was planning to kill his victim, who is the woman whom he's been pawning off stuff for, as it seems like he might just better the lives of other people. And we just see him commit his murder, how he also murders her sister, who happens to walk in, and he goes through her stuff, takes things that she's pawned off from others and takes them. And yeah, that's really part one really ends with him being chased by the woman's husband and a crowd, and he's able to escape from them. And part 2 is like when we really see the paranoia kick in, and that was really interesting, like how he thought he could only walk away with the money and then have a hiding place for other things like jewelry and that kind of stuff, and he's worried that his clothes are covered in blood when really it seems like it was the edge of his pants, and that the purse where the money was in is covered in blood, which it was a bit, and his wits kick in when he's trying to find a place to hide the evidence for that anyone can walk into his room and see what he did. He's summoned to the police station as apparently his landlady reported him for not paying his accounts, basically, and he has the urge to reveal what he did. And he becomes more paranoid that they suspect him after he faints when he tries to walk out. That was his faintness was due to an illness, and how when he's in the thick of his illness, he is raving and wondering where he hid evidence out loud to those looking after him. And he hears about workmen who are working in another apartment and how they're accused of being the murderers who there's no evidence, and he keeps going back and forth from going to the bureau and confessing again. Seeing them is quite interesting, and it seems like he did take a turn. He met this person, someone who was in a governor or something of that sort, and he fell from power, and any money he has, like he has a wife, 2 or 3 children with her, and a daughter from a previous marriage. And instead of using that money to support his family, he has been using it for drinking. We see that he was trampled by horses and he dies, and Waskonov is there to witness that death witness as the man's last breath is taken, how others are there to try and help him, like a doctor tries to see if there anything can be done with him, and the priest so the man can give his last confession and whatnot. And after he leaves the man's apartment, he seems to have this new lease on life and move on from what happened. And part 2 ends with him finding his mother and sister in his apartment and him once again fainting due to his illness. And it was a lot of him going back and forth with being horribly ill and him being someone that being he's not doing well, he's extremely poor, he doesn't have a job, so he's not in correct clothing, and as well he doesn't really seem to eat much, we're told that he's extremely skinny, so and he in part C we see how he's unconscious, and it's due to his illness, and it's mainly focusing on a mother and sister, and his friend was Ikon. So sorry if I butchered any of those names. But at the start of part 3, he does go off on his mother and sister and tells his sister that if she doesn't break off her engagement, she is no longer his sister. And Razumkon, he had this housewarming party that he was coming from when he bumped into and Waskonov, and the element is drunk, and while he's walking the mother and sister back to the accommodation, he flirts with the sister, and I'm definitely in this character, he does regret his actions the next day. He's what was I thinking? I was so stupid. His parts are always so funny to read, and but he does shout a lot. He's what are you? There's a lot of shouting. And we learned that the sister and the mother receive a letter from the sister's fiance, who is saying he doesn't want to see Waskonov, and the recommendation when he goes there to meet them, or he'll walk out. Apparently, he saw him give the dead man's wife or daughter all of the money they sent him, and kind of turned his opinion about him negatively. We see how the 2 men, they just don't seem to get along for whatever reason, and the sister and the mother, they want Waskonov to be there, and they ask him if he'll be there, and he says, yeah, I'll be there. And I'm definitely intrigued to see how that meeting will go, because I don't think it will go well. And when they do visit him the next day, he does seem to be in better spirits, and we see he's laughing at Was Kenan, while walking to the man's uncle to try and get back valuable possessions he pawned off to his victim. So, yeah, so far I'm definitely intrigued on what's gonna happen, and I just got to a part where apparently during the party they were talking about crime and how it's protest against the abnormality of the social order and all that. So I'm very much intrigued to read that conversation, and yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see. So it's the next day, and I've just done some cleaning and whatnot. I did go for a bit of a walk just in my neighborhood, so yeah, and I did do some reading of Crime and Punishment, and I finished part 3, finished part 4, and I just started part 5 premium page 338, and I have to say I'm definitely liking it. I would say quite a bit, and let me pull up my notes because my phone turned off. But with the remainder of part 3, we learned that was gonna forget. He wrote this article the year previously and it was recently published in some sort of journal, and in the article he says that act of carrying out a crime is always accompanied by illness, which is a bit ironic considering he's dealing with an illness. He also says that there are two kinds of people, the ordinary, which are those who they live like how life is, they don't try to change it, just go with the flow, I guess. And they don't try to make life better for themselves or others, while the extraordinary do try to make life better for themselves and others. The latter think that committing a crime and possibly killing another person is okay as long as it benefits. They hold the mentality that if one person dies but it betters the lives of maybe 10, 20 people, then that's okay. That's just the way they think is the argument. And we see how Waskanov and Wasamkon and their other friends, they get into a discussion of what should happen if the ordinary try to become the extraordinary, and how are they to tell the two groups apart, if there is a way to tell them apart or whatnot. And when Waskanov is walking from his room to where his family is, he sees this tradesman asking about him, and the man calls him a killer, apparently knowing what he did. And this whole thing kind of is a dream sequence in this sense. I thought he was losing his damn mind, but no, he's oh, and I woke after this. And he's the tradesman knew what he did and what would happen and what he would tell himself after the murder before he did it. And the dream is the tradesman leads him back to the apartment, and he sees his victim in a chair and hits her with an axe, and she's laughing, and that's the point he wakes up. So that was quite an ending to Act 4, and Act 3, sorry. Act 4 is the man who was responsible for ruining his sister's life by kind of pursuing her, and his wife slandered her character. It comes to St. Petersburg after the wife stuff. There are, I guess, gossip that he is responsible, that he gave her a beating, and then, which I guess is normal, I don't know, and then she went out and then had a bath, and then she died of a heart stroke. And he's I only beat her twice. And he's oh, we weren't exactly happy, she got me out. She prevented me from going to jail, and I was in her debt and whatnot. And he says he wasn't responsible for her death, and he's also seen her ghost everywhere. He came to St. Petersburg to try and marry the sister and tell her that the wife left her some money in her will, and that he will get nothing because that estate will go to her children. So, yeah, big of a douche asshole move, in my opinion. But speaking of assholes, while at a meeting with his sister's fiance, the fiance gives the sister no to him. He doesn't like Raskolnikov at all. Thinks what he did by giving all of the money away to this widow. It was irresponsible, and it's like he gives the sister this whole time, and in a sense it's either him or her brother, and he is the one supporting her mother while they're in St. Petersburg, and then he leaves. So and then, yeah, a bit of an asshole move, and he is also determined to get his POV that he wants to keep her as she's everything that he is looking for in a bride. You know, she's young, she's educated, she's pretty, and he can act as a savior to her. Like, she was in this situation, he rescued her like it's like Prince Charming or something. Like, it's such egotistical that I'm like, oh my god, this piece of shit. And yeah, the sister and the mother, they're like start talking with Was and Ken, who was at this meeting, like trying to find ways to support themselves without the need of this asshole of a fiance. And they start talking about their own business prospects and kind of get into it of trying to get into the publishing world and whatnot, and start a publishing company, you know. And that's kind of, he leaves, saying he might not see them again. He goes to the oldest daughter of the man who died on, and it's like he claims that he wants to marry her and how better the life of her life and her siblings' life. Like, it is heavily implicated that she is a prostitute, and with the mother like distorting, like her siblings will end up on the street as beggars, and kind of like she doesn't want that, and she's afraid of that. So yeah, he also has her read to him the wise of the Tsars before leaving to go to the police. He thinks he'll be arrested, but the friend of Weisenkamp, who is like the chief investigator, he doesn't think he's actually the killer, but the facts of the case have gone in his head and have interconnected with his own memories, so he's confused, making him think he is a killer and thinks all the crimes are the same. Almost like a mirror reflecting on one another, which is an interesting idea, but no, Raskolnikov keeps trying to insist like he is the killer and whatnot, and Jorge, I can't remember his name, he says he has something like in his government department that he went join, but before again, one of the painters who was accused of committing the murder is brought in and claims he's actually the killer for Japanese stories in the street, and it's like he's behaving like he was trained, like taught to say those words, like he is the killer, and it's like Raskolnikov isn't buying it at all, and yeah, he just walks out, which is like I'm not, at this point I'm just like, is he getting away with this crime? What is happening? Yeah, I don't know. So far, I'm definitely enjoying the most of kind of seeing his psychological makeup. Like, again, how he's going from one extreme to the other. Like, for me, it's this interesting because he's like, he goes back to his apartment and he's like, can I actually get away with this? Like, yeah, but so far I am enjoying it. Sometimes I think it's just how the languages and as well as translation, but also sometimes like I do get like a wall of text that goes over my head. So yeah, so far I am definitely liking it. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day and I've done some reading of Crime and Punishment, and I just reached part 6 premium, page 412, and I do have to say, the fiance of Raskolnikov, oh my god, Raskolnikov, sister, Petrovic, yeah, piece of shit of a character for what he does, like. But with the start of this part 5, we see how him and I guess the person he's lodging with, an Andrei Simonovic, they're talking, and we see how they kind of have different views. It seems like Petrovic is more traditional, while some of like believes in this thing called a commune, and like how people can just how instead of being in a normal traditional marriage, it's more of a civil marriage. It seems like doing things to be a bit less traditional, I guess, in that part, which is something. I don't know, this discussion is even interesting. We see how Petrovic he calls upon Sonia, and is like he's not gonna directly give money to her and her family, despite being a friend of, I think it was like her stepmother's first husband, because Sonia is from the dead man's previous marriage. But he's gonna like almost like a charity thing, like people set up a charity thing and people will donate money to the family, and he gave Sonia some money to give to her stepmother and to others and to help herself and her siblings. And yeah, and then we get to the part of the banquet that's hosted after the funeral, in which Petrovic, he was invited, but he decided he's not gonna attend. We do see how Raskolnikov does attend, and there's some tension there. Katerina Inovina, the dead man's widow, she doesn't get along with her landlord and keeps saying like how she will better the life of her family, how she was this like nobleman's daughter and whatnot, and yeah, it's this her, it seems like this losing her mind, and then this is the part where I'm like, this man of Petrovic, he shows up at the banquet and says that Sonia is a thief. Then, besides the money he gave her, which does acknowledge that she took a 100 something, no, I don't remember the currency exactly, and when Katerina turns out her pockets, there's the note, and he's like, oh, I have a witness who will testify for me, Andrei Semovic, and Menda show up, and he's like, you asshole, you put that money in her pocket, I saw you, like, I'm testifying against you, like, yes, I was happy when I read it, and I don't know, that was just like bit of a dick move, because let's go Nifikov. He doesn't understand why that occurred, like it's like part of Petrovic's ploy to turn his sister and his mother against him, to show that the woman Sonia, she's such a low woman, that he was wrong to give away all of the money to her, and she's a criminal, and etc. Like, it kind of ruins Petrovic's reputation, but yeah, just, I guess him trying to get back with or really reunite his engagement to his sister, and after the whole funeral thing, after the banquet, the landlady, she still kicks out the family, and like after Katerina and her have been falling out and they argue, Katerina leaves the apartment. It's like a whole thing. It was just utter chaos, this whole scene. And Raskolnikov, he does go back to his apartment, and his sister does show up, saying that she knew what he did and saying goodbye to him. And he does go to Sonia and tells her who killed her friend. And she's not necessarily afraid of him or tries to run away to get the police. She just hugs him and kisses him, which is like, okay then. Like, the two talk, and he's like, "You are the devil's within you. You need to repent." And he just tells her like why he did it, that he was poor, and he didn't do it for money per se, and yeah, I guess she leaves him. I don't know, but her neighbor, or it was the man who ruined his sister's life, and he did overhear this conversation through the door. So yeah, I'm very much intrigued to see what's in store for him, and yeah, and with Katrina, oh my word, I need to look this up, because I always forget how to pronounce people's names, and it's like I don't really know how to, but yeah, never really understand Katerina Ivanovna. She and her kids do end up on the street, not by force. It's like she chooses to, and she forces her younger children to become street performers and bullies them into trying to sing properly, dance the way she wants, like, and they're crying, they're terrified, and she's just yelling, like, it's like she has this utterly lost her mind, I mean, and she faints while, like, she's being told by the police, like, you need a license in order to perform, and it is due to, like, I think, consumption or whatever, and she dies. So yeah, I do feel bad for kids, just because, like, some of them are extremely young, like, we're not told, but from what I've gathered, like, I want to say 2 of them are at least under 10 years old, so it's like they've lost their mother, they just lost their father, and they will probably end up in an orphanage, and we do learn that the man who in Danya's, Raskunov's sister's life, he is going to give the money to them to support them, and like, split the money to be raised between the youngest kids, and when they become of age, they will inherit that money to try and kind of take some of the burden off Sonia's shoulders, which I do like so far, even for this man, that also isn't the best. Yeah, I mean, was gone off this how his sister to go with was killing, so I'm just like, I don't know, I'm kind of intrigued to see who she ends up with, because Petrovic, like, no. That was what he did was such an awesome move, especially on the day of the funeral of Sonia's father, and she's already grieving, like, I think he just didn't really care for her because of her reputation and really, I guess, how she lives her life. Like, he just sees her as a thing to use, and yeah, I'm just intrigued to see what will happen next with people knowing what he did with what Raskolnikov did. And yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and I've just done some work and whatnot. I also filmed my main wrap-up, which was the feed. I kept getting some distractions and my camera died, so yeah, that was a mess. But I did finish Crime and Punishment, and I did like this, and I'm giving it 4 stars. My thoughts on it is, like with what we carry on from where I updated you yesterday, we see how Raskolnikov, he cannot trust his own memories. Like, he's, like, due to him mixing up events in a timeline, and then learning that the order of events was different to what he thought. As well, his imagination did take over at one point, which is, I don't know, I just find that intriguing. Like, how he cannot even trust his own mind, and he's worried about what will happen next, and he'll have to deal with the man who kind of ruined his sister's life, Sivik Silov, or how Sonia looked at him during the priest seeing Katerina before her funeral. He is not himself, and he is finding a way to escape his mind, really. And even his friend Ken is worried enough that he speaks more calmly, like he's not shouting or examining, like, something, and asks if Raskolnikov is truly mad. His mother does seem worried about him and is making herself sick, and it seemed like his sister, like, she knows what he did, but she didn't say it, so there is that as well. I agree. he goes to like the chief investigator, and and tells him that one of the painters like confessed to, and there was evidence against the guy. And however, the investigator does know Waskenokov is the one who killed those women, and he isn't going to arrest him at his apartment or in a police station. He's just gonna allow him to walk in because it's like reverse psychology in a way, but also Waskenokov. He knows about the tradesman who called Waskenokov a killer, and Waskenokov can easily say, "Are you a drunk?" Like he can easily cast doubt, which is something that's so quite interesting thing, like because the legal system and how one man's word is against another, and it's like how you say or what you say is very important. Like that is interesting, and yeah. Again, he can cast down his credibility. Like the chief investigator says, to prevent this, the only thing that can happen is for Waskenov to confess to his crimes, and also the chief investigator also admits that he did play a bit of a role in Waskenov's paranoia and his spreading rumors to hiding it. Talk about certain things in a specific way for the investigator to connect the dots and allow the arrows to be pointed at Raskolnikov and who was the murderer. And after the investigator leaves, Raskolnikov, he goes to find the man who in his sister's life, like I will not be able to say his name, who does know what he did after overhearing his conversation with Sonia, and like Raskolnikov, this wants to make a deal with him. Like he finds him in a tavern and whatnot, and the guy tells him his life story on how he and his wife, they were together as like a trade and whatnot. Like everyone knew about his reputation as a player, someone who sleeps around. Even the sister knew. And yeah, we learn about what exactly happened in the household and what. I'm just gonna try to pronounce the guy's name. Sivdegelov. How he's maybe he seemed to have moved on from that. And this is the part that does make me sick, but I know this is quite common. Is that he somehow, okay, I guess it's the landlord or landlady, like she knows this couple who they have a 16-year-old daughter who they cannot support. The father is disabled, and there's other stuff. And Sivigilov, he's gonna marry this girl. He's 50 years old. She's barely 16 years old, and apparently 16 is the age she has to be in order for her to be married. So, and it's also like really weird because the way she's dressed by her family and the way she acts, it's like she's a doll, and it also makes her seem like she's much younger than it is. And it's like she might be wise above her years at times, but it's like, but yeah, the two leave, and Sivigilov, he runs into the sister, takes her back to his apartment, shows her that no one's there before telling her of her brother's crimes, and she tries to leave, and he has locked the door, and there's no one there, and it's like, it's almost like a situation where it's like you're on the edge of your seat if he's actually gonna hurt her in some way, which I'm glad I didn't go down that route. But the sister, she pulls out a pistol, and she has a very fierce look on her face, like she's not afraid to shoot food. She clearly is, and she does miss him, like I think she just nicks him and whatnot, but he allows her to leave. He pockets the pistol. He kind of goes to not make amends, but to close his debts, I guess, like give the money to the orphans, give the money to his bride, and then he goes to a hotel where he has a lot of weird dreams before he inevitably kills himself for some reason. I need to stop scratching. I still have my rash from, like, I think poison ivy. Yeah. So that's the end of him, and we also see Raskolnikov, how he's saying his own goodbyes to his mother, his sister, and to Sonia before he goes to admit what he did at the police station. Like, he goes to the bureau to confess. The chief investigator speaks to him casually, like informing him of like an officer who left in to get in to green one on, and then Raskinov, he leaves, and then but only goes back into the station and confesses after he sees Sonia and the whole thing. And yeah, we see in the epilogue how he's almost a year afterwards, like how during the trial it was found that he was temporarily insane, which I guess helped his case as well as testimony for him, and like how he did good for other people, how he saved orphans from, not orphans, infants from a fire, how he helped a friend while he was in university, and then helped the friend's father after the friend died. Like a lot of good deeds he's done, and overall he got like, I think it was 8 years in prison, or in hard labor it was, in Siberia. And yeah, we see how everyone continues on. Like his mother did fall ill, and his sister Danya and Wasam, and then they don't really tell her, and she doesn't really ask about like where her son is, but she's fallen into this delusion that her son will come to her eventually, and it's this like wanting to deny like the truth, even though she kind of didn't know like what he did, and she falls seriously ill. She starts raving, and like it seems like she has lost her mind, and then when she does die, it's known that she did this back. And then we see how Wasam and Donya, Sonia, they all plan to move to Siberia to make profit there. How Donya and Wasam oh my word, these names. How they marry, and it seems like Raskolnikov does have a thing with Sonia, and Sonia is already in Siberia. She does become a seamstress, and it seems like she, like the other prisoners, they hate Raskolnikov, and he doesn't get along with them, and yet they like Sonia. They're like Sonia, but it seems like they're really using her to like write letters to their loved ones. Which, yeah, we see how Raskolnikov, he doesn't feel guilty for what he did. He only feels his only crime is the fact he confessed to what he did. Like, you know, seeing how he has no guilt whatsoever for what he did. And it seems like he now has a new lease on life, a new hope of eventually being released from this hard labor and being with Sonia. And the end of the novel, it seems like it implies that he will have to work very hard, and well, it doesn't seem like he ever gets that happy ending. It's just like a dream. Like it seems like he dies before he gets that. And yeah, overall I like this novel. I definitely enjoyed seeing the psychological aspects of it, and like I guess the reverse psychology of things and whatnot. So yeah, overall 4 stars. And the next book I'll be picking up, I will discuss that tomorrow, but for now, that is all for now. So it's the next day, and so far I've just done some cleaning and whatnot. I just put on a load of laundry, and I did edit and export my wrap up, and yeah, oh my word, it was a bit less chaotic. Looking, I think, in the end, who I did not finish reading the synopsis of one book just because I was getting tired and fed up, so yeah, but anyway, I did do all that, and I did do some reading of my next book, and I just started Even Though I Knew the End by C.L. Polk. And this is about a magical detective who dives into the affairs of Chicago's divine monsters to secure a future with the love of her life. This sapphic period piece will dazzle anyone looking for mystery, intrigue, romance, magic, and or all of the above. An exiled augur who sold her soul to save her brother's life is offered one last job before serving an eternity in hell. When she turns it down, her client sweetens the pot by offering up the one payment she can resist: the chance to have a future where she grows old with the woman she loves. To succeed, she is given 3 days to track down the White City vampire, Chicago's most notorious serial killer. If she fails, only hell and heartbreak await. And yeah, with this synopsis, pretty straightforward. We do meet Helen, who she's an investigator. She is a mystic, it seems like, who, when she's exiled from the Brotherhood, she's a warlock. And a decade ago, she and her family were in a car crash, and initially she was the only one who survived. And she summoned the devil and made a deal. And it turns out that the deal only brought back one person. Like, she had to choose, it seems like, between her father, her mother, or her brother, and she chose her brother. And in a way, her brother does resent her for it, and as well, he is the one who reported her. Boo, she doesn't blame him because he was like 14 and this was following the rules, wanting to be a good teacher, but yeah. Anyway, we see how Helen, she's investigating this crime scene, and then she meets with her client, and it's like, she's done. She wants to move out west with the love of her life, like, to, I guess, start fresh and really be in a place where they're a bit more accepting, because this does take place in 1941, and she and Edith, her girlfriend, have to, hide who they truly are, hide their relationship and whatnot. And we see how Helen is really caught up with angels and demons and whatnot. Like, yeah. So far I'm liking it. I kind of wish it was a bit longer because it is a novella. It's like 130 something pages. And there are topics that are being explored in here that are relevant to this time period. Like, what is seeing Helen and her thoughts on mental institutions, how people are sent there for being sick, yet they never seem to heal. Like, she knows that's where people like her, people who are homosexuals, are sent, and we see how she kind of, I guess, reacts when she sees her ex-girlfriend there, and her ex-girlfriend avoids looking at her because she had to undergo something called inversion therapy, where she is electrocuted for looking at a woman too long. Like, this is definitely during a time period where people are electrocuted with the belief that it will help them be better, or feel better, or heal them. And yeah, we see with this, like, how people are possessed, how Edith herself was possessed willingly by an angel, and Edith is a strong Christian, someone who has strong Christian beliefs, and whatnot, and how the angel, or maybe, I did take notes, and I already forgot his name, but it's like an H, and I do need to look at it. But it's, oh my word, does some, it's like Harina, and we also learned that demons can also possess them, but they're possess people, but they're different in the sense, like, angels do need consent, while demons can just possess whoever the hell they want to possess, like, without consent. And we see how it can affect people, how if a demon is, like, done with a vessel in abundance, then it can break that person. Like, we learn quite quickly that this white city vampire might be a demon using people as vessels, and when he's done with them and having them, like, and using them to commit these crimes, he's abandoning them. And we see how one of them, she's utterly broken. Like, she doesn't react to anything. She starts screaming when you say prayer, or really anything. Like, there is a negative impact, which I do find interesting, in seeing, like, how people can just jump. Well, these entities can just jump bodies and get away with such heinous crimes. Like, I'm very much intrigued, and we learned that all of the victims were, like, Helen. Like, 10 years prior, they made a deal with the devil, and then they got extremely successful. Now the deal was up. Like, the devil or demon has come to collect, and Helen is told that after the first victim we meet in the novel, that she is next, and yet for some reason she's skipped over. Like, in this White City vampire kills someone else. So yeah, I'm very much intrigued if that's really it or if something else will happen. I do have about 30 pages left, but I'm not really in the mood to read anymore today, so I'm just not gonna force myself to, but yeah, so far I'm just really liking the way the topics are being explored through. I kind of wish it was more in depth with this, because at times it feels like it just goes by and then we're on to the next thing. And yeah, I'm like, should we trust her now? Is he really who they say they are? I don't know. I'm always questioning this sort of thing, like how, if what Helen is being told by the creature possessing Edith is really who they say they are, or something else. And yeah, I think that's all for now. So I'll see you when I see you. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. I had to run some errands to my grocery shop, the whole shebang. But before I went to the store, I just went to this field that's quite close to the street where there's just a bunch of supermarkets, and I just walked a bit. Quite nice, and yeah, I don't know if that picture that was on my Instagram will be the thumbnail, but if you notice something underneath my eye, that was sunblock that this didn't like seep out, I guess, but yeah. But I have also done some reading, and I did finish Even Though I Knew the End, and I gave it 4 stars. And with this one, Harney, he has an idea of what's happening. Contrary to what was initially believed, the White City Vampire is an angel, not a demon, and apparently centuries ago, angels aren't supposed to interfere with humans. They're supposed to watch them and whatnot. And some angels, they did interfere. They gave a part of themselves to humans, which caused those their children to become Nephilim, and who are born with special powers and abilities, and really make it easy to possess them. God, you can imagine, was upset about this and cast out these angels to earth and locked the doors to heaven. And over time, the angel's powers have diminished, and with the White City Vampire, he's using these sacrifices, these victims, really to open the doors to heaven. And in his opinion, because these souls, they're already doomed, they're already destined, or oh my word, there's a word that I'm looking for, but they're already damned, oh my word. And then they don't count as victims, and we do learn the reason on why Helen's soul was skipped, and it's just really because she was intended to be used as a vessel for this angel, the one who's causing the murders. And we see how her brother, he's kind of deemed to be worthy of being a sacrifice, and you see how Harna and Helen have to go to raise him. We learn who the White City Vampire is and the whole shebang. And in a way, this novel comes full circle, in the sense Helen, by fulfilling her contract to her client and leading her to where the White City Vampire is gets her soul back. But something happens with Edith, and Helen sells her soul once more. And it's man, I don't care. We have 10 years, that's all I thought I would get. And yeah, you see how she and Edith, they live happily ever after all. They will get a happy ending, at least for the next 10 years. So yeah. I don't know. Overall, I like this. I did understand the length, like why it's so short, because I feel like if it was like longer, it would have felt a bit drawn out. Because Helen, she does have 3 days. Like she doesn't have a choice. It's either she solves this case or she's gonna die. So yeah, overall, 4 stars. And the next book I started was Gingerbread by Helen Oyami, and this is about Perdita Lee may appear to be your average British schoolgirl. Harriet Lee may seem as a working mother trying to penetrate the school social hierarchy, but there are signs that they might not be as normal as they think they are. For one thing, they share a gold-painted 7-floor walk-up apartment with some surprisingly verbal vegetation, and then there's the gingerbread they bake. Londoners may find themselves able to take it or leave it, but they're very popular in the Austriana, the faraway or, according to many sources, non-existent land of Harriet Lee's early youth. When teenage Perdita sets out to find her mother's long-lost childhood friend, Greta, a true lover of the Lee family's gingerbread, her search prompts a new telling of Harriet's story. And yeah, so far we learn how people they just really like this gingerbread, how a lot of the times they seem grateful for it, and we learned that if Harriet, it's this novel, it's just been a fun time so far, in the sense, Harriet does point out, she does have a quite common name, she's met Harriet Lees, and shares, what they owe, all of the different professions they've had and whatnot. And with this Harriet Lee, she, it seems is a teacher, and she has mentioned, she's kind of changed up where this gingerbread came from, where the recipe came from, she's oh, it was some family recipe on my mother's side, when really that's not the case. For some reason, she really came from her father's side, and yeah, we just learned. So far, we've learned the story of how the great grandparents married, and the son's the grandfather was scheduled to be executed, and I guess the executioners like to play matchmaker, and if you're married, you're saved or whatever, and someone's well, I want to take this man to marry, and the grandmother's yeah, I will. And the gingerbread really came from the fact they had a lot of children. I believe it was 15 in total, and it's how to best use the resources they have left, how to utilize everything so nothing goes to waste. And yeah, we see with Harriet Lee, she is a bit of an outsider in her daughter's parent-teacher association, or the equivalent of it. I believe it goes by a different name in a novel. But yeah, she gives everyone a tin of gingerbread, something she does, and no one eats it, and no one even glances at it. And she learns she is the outsider in a sense. Everyone knew each other since childhood and school. They all have their own history and whatnot. So yeah, and we also see with Perdita, she was obsessed with gingerbread. I believe when she was 6 or 7, that was the only thing that she ate. And Margaret, Harriet's mother, did get concerned about her, and there were some health issues there with Perdita. And it seems Harriet, she didn't even try to stop her daughter's obsession. She just allowed it to happen until Perdita got sick. And Perdita, she herself has some weird abilities, it seems so far, in the sense she's able to have her dolls talk to her. And she also has this thing where she's able to divert attention from herself quite easily. So yeah, so far I don't know, I'm having fun with it so far. And you see, with Harriet, she does try and do some research on Draastrana, how many countries have deemed it a myth. No one seems to find it on a map and whatnot. 3 countries did say it's real, but 2 of them did later take back that claim and say it's a myth. So I'm quite curious about that, if this country is actually real, if not, and if Perdia has some sort of ability so far in this. I can imagine this is this Harriet trying to deal with a teenage girl, and it seems like she's a single mother, in the sense the father doesn't seem to be in the picture whatsoever, so, but yeah, and trying to navigate the whole parent-teacher association stuff, and yeah, so far I'm just having fun with it, and I'm intrigued to read more, and yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you when I see you. So it's the next day, and so far I did go out today. I went to this flea market that they sure does happen in a town close to me. I didn't get anything, but a lot of very interesting things. It's just always with these sales, they always sell the most interesting stuff, I guess. But yeah, I did some more grocery shopping, and some stores in the area like Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and a couple Eastern European stores I like to go to. So yeah, and I did do some reading of gingerbread, and I'm on page 86 so far. I might do some more reading, but I'm just not really wanting to film some more. I don't know, I just want to upload this footage to edit it, so yeah. But I'm not sure what to think of this. I've MAD pages in, but it feels like we're just getting into the story. Maybe see how with Helen, I'm not Helen, my god, I'm Harriet, there we are. She also seems to be someone people forget. We see how she would be having lunch with a coworker for 4 weeks, and then the coworker moves, and it's who the hell are you? When Helen calls her up, and it's how the hell do you know about my research? She's the one who inserts herself into other people's lives. And she's also aware that there is nothing distinguishable about her. And she now has to deal with Perda, and her lying to her. Perda said that her class, they were going to do an overnight trip to Canterbury, and they live in London, and Harriet, after the trip, she calls up some of the other parent-teacher association members, and they're all what are you talking about? So, for some reason, Perda lied, and Harriet arrives home and sees that Perda did make herself one gingerbread, for some reason, and she ate it, and it caused her to have this, I guess, allergic reaction, or something. It's not really explaining what happened, but Perda's in a coma for a while, and you see how people really come together for her. There was, to help the family, there was a scene where, Perda, she's carried out by her neighbors. They live on a 7th floor. Walk up, and the stairs are quite steep, and so to get Perda to the 1st floor, they just, pass her along in their hand, and that scene was quite amusing. And you see how members of the Parent-Teacher Association, they're doing kind of the bare minimum of trying to support Harriet, and Harriet learns that a couple of classmates did try to befriend Perda, but Perda just wasn't interested in friendship. We learn that for some reason Perda, she thought that by eating the gingerbread, it would help her or allow her to travel to Astrana, and it didn't really. We do see the effects of the gingerbread, not gingerbread, of the coma her that it was in sense, it affected her speech and whatnot. And Harriet, she tells the story of her time in Dresden, and how her mother was the heir, it seems or the daughter of this wealthy guy who made games that were so rigged that the people who worked for him would win, and then they would just give the money back to him and whatnot. And she was disowned after she married Simon, Harriet's father. As he was this farmer, and it seems like they don't own the farmland, it's owned by someone else. Well, let me see how Margot is called. Margot writes to her father and lies and says that he has a grandson. And Margot's just hoping like, oh, grandfather Instance will take over once he says Harriet. It won't matter that I lied. Like, no, well. He's like, I mean, you can come back and you can bring your daughter to sleep that boy. And you can become Harriet. Like, I need you here. You're my only child. And yeah, I'm not sure if it will happen there. And you see Harriet with Drawstana, or the area Harriet's from. It was quite interesting in a sense, like every place does have a story to be told, which is something I like, except for this well, which is called Gretchel's Well. Yeah, Gretchel's Well. And one day Harriet is at the well and she meets Gretchel. Who tells her that someone was thrown into the well. It was a friend of Harriet, another girl on the farm, and Harriet climbs down, gets her out, and whatnot. The owner of the farms, for some reason, turned up and wants to use this gingerbread recipe that Margot has to make something of it, like to sell it in a much larger scale, a product that people can buy in the store, and she wants some of the farm girls to go and help out, and it's like these girls are seeing it as an opportunity to do something better with their lives, to see the city, and I mean it might do some good to send their parents some money, but the parents, a lot of them seem a bit hesitant, like not really trusting this woman, which makes sense, because it's like this woman just might be exploiting their daughters, and their daughters will be treated like factory workers and probably not treated properly, so that's what they're afraid of. And yeah, I guess so far I'm just having fun, like not really sure what to make of this, so yeah, that's all for now, and that's also the end of this video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below telling me what you've been up to recently. If you want to, please subscribe to this channel, and if you want to follow me on any social media, then all those links are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post.